I smiled and said, "That's my boy." That was the exact moment. The moment I knew something was terribly, irrevocably wrong with my child. You know those moments when your body registers something before your brain can put words to it? The air shifts, your gut tightens, and you're suddenly hyper-aware of everything. That was me. Right then, in the middle of our living room, in the soft glow of the evening sun, standing over my son while he giggled like he had done something. Clever, he was 7. Just a kid. And he had that same crooked grin that he'd had since he was a toddler, the kind that used to melt my heart. But this time, it chilled me to the bone. I had just come in from grocery shopping. Bags still clutched in my hands, keys swinging from my finger, and he was there on the carpet, his hands stained with something dark. Something sticky. I thought it was chocolate. I actually laughed, called out, "Did you get into the pudding cups again, Charlie?" He didn't answer, just looked up at me with wide, proud eyes. And then I saw the bird. It was a tiny thing, sparrow maybe. It's torn open like it had been dissected, but with none of the sterile precision. The wings were splayed, one almost completely severed, and there were little rock-sharp ones lined up around its body. Like a ritual, I dropped the groceries. He blinked up at me and said, "It screamed for a while, but then it stopped." Felt my knees buckle. Not from shock, not exactly, but from the slow, creeping horror that began to gnaw at my soul. I had seen roadkill before, dead animals. Even watched a hawk take a squirrel once right off our backyard fence. Nature is brutal, but this wasn't nature. This was deliberate. Curious. "Why did you do that, sweetheart?" I asked. My voice was too soft, like I was talking to a bomb I didn't want to set off. He shrugged. I wanted to see what was inside. Couldn't breathe. My mind was spiraling, trying to come up with logical explanations. Maybe he found it like that. Maybe some other animal did it and he was just playing. Kids are weird, right? But the blood on his hands wasn't dry yet. I took him inside. Washed his hands in silence. The warm water turned pink, then red. He hummed, like it was a normal day. It's like he'd just come in from soccer practice or building Lego castles. That night, couldn't sleep. I watched him from the hallway, peeking. Into his room, he was curled up under his dinosaur blanket, thumb in his mouth, peaceful, innocent, a sleeping angel. But all I could see were those tiny rocks, the torn wings, the blood. The next morning, I sat him down at the kitchen table and tried to talk. Tried to parent Charlie. You know, it's not okay to hurt animals, right? He nodded, but it was a rehearsed nod, a mimicry, not understanding, not remorse. I asked, "How did it make you feel?" He looked at me and tilted his head, thought for a second, then said warm, "I didn't know what that meant. I still don't. Not entirely. But it felt wrong." The therapist said not to panic, said children are naturally curious, that boys often display exploratory aggression, that sometimes they don't fully grasp life and death the way adults do. I wanted to believe that. God, I wanted to, but then the neighbor's cat went missing. Then the class hamster. Then I found a razor blade hidden in his sock drawer. I confronted him. "Charlie, where did you get this?" He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "From your bathroom. I wanted to see if it could cut skin." That's when the screaming started, not from him. From me. I lost it. Cried. Pleaded, asked him over and over why he wanted to hurt things. If he was in pain, if someone had touched him, hurt him, something, anything I could hold on to, he just stood there, arms at his sides. Like I was speaking a different language. Later that night, after he went to bed, I curled up in the hallway and sobbed until I couldn't breathe. My husband was gone. Deployed. 6 more months until he'd be home. He FaceTimed us once a week. I didn't tell him. I couldn't. What would I say? Our son is dangerous. Our little boy likes to hear things scream. I started locking up the knives, the scissors, the tools in the garage. I watched. Him constantly. I put bells on his door. I pretended it was a game, but every time he smiled, Every time he said, "I love you, Mommy," I wondered if he meant it, or if he was just pretending. Then came the school incident. A little girl, Jenny. She sat 2 rows behind Charlie in class. Sweet girl. Quiet one day, she came home with a bite mark on her arm. A deep one. Her mom came storming into the school the next morning, demanding answers. The teacher reviewed the footage. The classroom had a camera, and there he was, son, crawling under the desks like an animal, waiting, watching, then leaping up like a predator and biting her hard before crawling away like nothing happened. When the teacher asked him why, she looked too perfect. Wanted to make a mark. They called me in. The principal, the school psychologist, the guidance counselor. All of them sitting across from me like a firing squad. They asked if he had experienced trauma, abuse. Had we considered seeing a specialist? I told them he was already in therapy, that we were doing everything we could. But the truth was, I was drowning. In the worst part, a piece of me still loved him, still saw that baby I used to rock to sleep, still remembered his first words, his first steps. But the rest of me was afraid. Terrified, a few weeks later, he brought home a drawing from art class. The other kids drew houses, trees, animals. Charlie drew a person. It's a very detailed one, with X's for eyes, mouth stitched shut, and red dripping from its hands. He said it was me. He smiled again, that crooked, haunting smile, and I smiled back. I smiled and said, "That's my boy," because I didn't know what else to say, because inside I was shattering, because if I broke in front of him, what would he do? Now it's been a year. Charlie's in a special program, not quite a hospital, not quite a school, somewhere in between. Monitored, watched, studied. I visit once a week. He always hugs me, always smiles. Last time I brought him a book, I didn't open it. He just held it and asked, "Do you ever wish you had a different son?" I didn't answer. He didn't push. Just nodded and said, "It's okay. I wouldn't want me either." Right. And I went home and threw up in the sink. Because that moment, that one final moment, was worse than all the others. Worse than the sparrow. It's worse than the bite. It's worse than the drawing. Because it was the first time he didn't smile. And for a second, he looked human.